Hello and welcome everybody to this Coffee and Clouds event focused on cyber insurance secrets for small and mid-sized businesses. I'm Alan Falcon. I'm the CEO of Cumulus Global, and I want to thank you for joining us here today. Always appreciate whether you're here on the live session or listening to this and viewing this session on demand. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and week to join us and hopefully learn and gain from some of our insights and our expertise. A little housekeeping before we dive right in. The session audio is muted to avoid any background noise. So if you have any questions or comments along the way, please, there's an icon for the questions window, top or right side of your screen. Click there, ask it there. We have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of the session. We try and keep these to about 15 minutes, but I'm happy to stay on longer if people want to engage. And just a reminder that our Coffee and Cloud series is one of many types of resources we have in the Resource Center on our website. So please stop by, take a look, and see if there's other information that you might find valuable or a good resource for you as you look at your business and your IT services. So we talk about cyber insurance. It's a necessary component of running a business these days. We've talked in other forums, blog posts, ebooks, other webcasts about how prevalent cyber attacks are on small and mid-sized businesses. It's not just large organizations or hospitals or schools getting attacked. And so when you look at cyber insurance, there's really some things that can get you hung up and in trouble that could leave you with improper coverage or an unnecessarily high cost. And you certainly don't want to find out that you're overpaying, and you certainly don't want to find out that you have the wrong coverage and services should you be the victim of attack. So we're going to cover 5 things here today that really help you move through it and make sure you have the right coverage with the right underwriter. So the first thing we always say is step 1 is do your preparation before you even apply. And the reason for that is the application process, the underwriters, this is a specialized insurance. So it's going to be underwritten. And I'll talk briefly about policies that aren't and why you don't want to go with them. But the underwriters, when they look at your business, they're going to look for policies, procedures, and technologies that provide adequate protection where they can assess your risk and therefore get back to you with a rating and a rate and a set of services they'll offer should you become a victim of a cyber attack. And so for you, they're focusing on, are you protected? Are you protected? Can you prevent an attack or prevent an attack from spreading if there's one successful? And do you have the ability to effectively and efficiently recover in the face of attack? That's really what the underwriters are looking for, what they want, and where their focus is. And for you, when we look at small and mid-sized businesses, what that really means, your prep is making sure that you have protection and prevention in place against the most common threats, being a small, mid-sized company, as well as attacks that'll have the greatest impact. So, for example, we know that ransomware style attacks or attacks that could result in ransomware where accounts are compromised, they're in your system, they're able to steal or encrypt data, are the most common threats still against small and mid-sized organizations. But the most expensive attack that if it's successful for a small business is a business email compromise, where you and your customers could be defrauded of cash, incorrect payment instructions, interception of messages, things of that nature. So we look at solutions. We're not saying that you need the same solution that a mid-size or large enterprise will have, but you should have basics in place: advanced threat protection, next generation endpoint protection on your devices, multi-factor authentication. There's a whole list of those, and we have other resources we can point you to that talk about what you should have in place and why. You should also have some basic policies and procedures, and you don't need the 3-inch thick manual. You need a solid, appropriate use, solid security policy, and how you handle BYOD devices that connect to show that you understand where your risk envelope is and that you're monitoring and managing it. And finally, one of the things that underwriters are looking for is, well, what happens if there is an attack? What's it going to take to recover? And it's good if you have backup recovery in place. It's better if you have even a simple continuity solution where you have the ability to have your business up and running. And when the underwriters are looking at that recovery mechanism, they're not just thinking, how can they get their existing systems up and running? They're thinking, can this business recover to the point of and return to operations if some or all of their computer systems are considered evidence of a crime, and which can mean they're seized or they're taken into custody for forensics analysis by the legal authorities and law enforcement. And so there are a couple of things. So again, prep. If you have these basics in place, the whole application process is going to be much smoother, because cyber insurance, once you apply, there's generally going to be some form of questionnaire or security audit, right? And what you're really trying to avoid by being prepared, and even how you answer questions on those surveys, and we'll get to those in a second, if you're not ready, underwriters are going to do one of two things. They're going to reject your application, or they're going to say, we will underwrite you if you meet the following specific requirements. And so let's talk about rejection first. Rejection is a problem, because the first question on every single application for cyber insurance is, have you ever been rejected in the past? Or have you been rejected for a cyber insurance specific policy within the last 2 years or 3 years? If you answer yes, the likelihood that the next insurance company is going to even consider underwriting you is lowered. And if they do, it's going to be at a much higher premium because of your perceived risk. And so even if you get rejected and you fix everything that's wrong, when you go back, they're going to say, well, this person wasn't doing security well. They've put all these things in place, but we don't know if they understand it, if they're going to operate it well, if they're going to maintain it well. They are a higher risk because they weren't ready to begin with. And you want to avoid that rejection. It'll lengthen the time it takes you to get it. It'll dramatically increase your cost. The other thing you don't want is them to come back to you and say, we're underwriting you, and here's your quote, but as a condition of the policy, you must install XYZ technology or use ABC service. And while you think, well, that's not a bad idea, they're going to tell me what I need and then the policy works. It's a horrible idea, because you're a small and mid-sized business owner operator. And the insurance companies are not IT specialists. So when they make those requirements, they're typically going with best of breed products that have an enterprise solution. So we're aware of one company when they got their application back and it said, we're underwriting you at this very nice rate, but we require to use product X. This 10-person company had to buy 250 licenses of that other product because they have a 250 user minimum. And what could have been achieved through a different product for a 20th of the cost became a huge operating expense for them in order to accept that policy and move forward. Okay. And so it's not a good solution. You want to avoid being trapped into being required to use a technology that you can't afford and that you don't want. Third is when you fill out, after you do as part of the application and as part of the survey or questionnaire or audit, however they structure it, on your current security implementation, take real caution with yes and no. Okay, because it'll impact your coverage, it'll impact the rate in significant ways. And what you need to know about yes and no is that they are absolute, right? And if you answer yes, and it's not 100% true in every instance in your business, and you have a claim, some underwriters will deny the claim in its entirety. Others will negotiate the level of coverage you actually get for that claim. And so it can impact your ability to get underwritten, and it can impact your ability to actually collect money and services should you be a victim of a cyber attack. So, for example, one of the questions is, do you use multi-factor authentication on systems that contain company data or client data? If you say yes, but there's one little application you use where multi-factor authentication is not in place, your claim can be denied. And we've seen, and we're aware of situations where companies have paid for cyber insurance. And for example, we had a company that says, do you have a backup and recovery system for all your data that meets these parameters? And they said yes. Okay. And when the first question, when they filed a claim because they were the victim of a successful cyber attack, the insurance company said, show us your most recent test to validate that your backups were working properly. And because they couldn't validate and prove that they were actually doing regular usable backups, the insurance company denied part of their claim and said, we're not going to pay for any data restoration or data recovery services as part of the claim. It's a huge risk. The term see attached is your friend and hero because it actually lets you identify what you do and what you don't. And then the underwriter will determine whether or not it meets the criteria or to what extent as far as the underwriting, but you will not have misstated or made a misclaim on your application or your audit that could result in a denial of coverage. Number 4 is know that you, as the owner of the business, as the person who signs the application and will have to sign the audit, own your answers. You are legally and contractually responsible for answers you provide on cyber insurance applications, questionnaires, surveys, and audits. So know that, yes, you're going to talk to your IT people and your IT companies about that component. You're going to talk to HR about policies, or you're going to pull up your policy manuals and do that. And a number of different people and resources. Your lawyer may be involved. And sometimes your accountant might need to get involved in some of the audits we've seen. And so great, they're all going to take those questions, they're going to review them, they're going to answer them, they're going to give them back to you. Make sure that you don't just review those answers, that you understand the answers, you understand what it means, and you understand how well and how effectively it answers the questions being asked on the form or as part of the audits. If there's any doubt, get opinions and guidance from counsel, from legal counsel who are familiar with cyber insurance claims and liability. If you are not clear on anything, don't sign, don't turn in the application until you are. Again, we see businesses who take what's provided to them, they don't fully understand it, they sign it, lo and behold, there's a claim. The insurance company says, but wait a minute, you said X. And the owner of the business says, well, that's not what I thought you meant. I think what we thought you meant was Y, and we meet Y, and they're like, nope, X, you misrepresented. We're not covering you, or we're reducing the coverage of what we're willing to pay, and we're going to cancel your policy with prejudice. So own your answers. And last is number 5, use a specialist, right? And when we talk about using a specialist, we're really talking about a cyber insurance agent, preferably a broker who works with multiple agents and underwriters, rather than your general business liability insurance, right? And the analogy I use is you would never go into your primary care physician and schedule open heart surgery, right? In fact, you don't even want a cardiologist to do the open heart surgery. You want a heart surgeon, right? A thoracic surgeon to do it, someone who specializes in it, because there's specialized knowledge and skills. And when something goes wrong, you want someone who understands it and knows how to fix it, right? Cyber insurance is a specialized insurance. And when you talk to your generalist insurance agency who's providing your spills and chills, your general liability, your auto policies, whatever, when you start talking to them about cyber insurance, they're going to bring to you policies that require minimal underwriting, which tend to have very limited coverage, very restrictive terms, limit in the dollar coverage and limit in the scope of coverage. A good cyber insurance policy is going to cover the cost and actually demand that they control and manage issues like forensics to research what happened and to understand the extent of it. Compliance, now that most states have some form of legal requirement of reporting of cyber breaches and successful cybersecurity attacks, and even providing funding and resources for communications with vendors, your bank, the public, from a marketing standpoint, and your customers from a customer service and customer panic standpoint, right? You want all of that to be part of what's paid off in a claim and managed. You want someone who will take the lead in coordinating with law enforcement. And I know that there's a lot of talk, well, don't get law enforcement involved. It only makes things worse. They can seize the computers. In talking with a retired FBI special agent in charge who worked cybersecurity for over a dozen years, the FBI believes that they have decryption keys for about 82 to 84% of all ransomware attacks out there in the world today, right? So talking to law enforcement can get you the decryption key without paying the ransom. The other component right now is, in order to stop businesses from paying the ransom, U.S. attorneys have now been given guidance that if people pay ransom and it's to a known hacker group that's either it is considered a terrorist or funds terrorist organizations, or it's a hostile state, that's a federal crime. And they're looking to prosecute businesses that pay ransoms and are funding terrorism or hostile states is a way of stopping companies from paying the ransom so that ransomware becomes less profitable and it declines, right? Know that underwriters have a rigorous claims process. Having a great agent who specializes or a broker who specializes in cyber insurance means they're able to guide you not just through the successful application process, which has a formal process and requires technical expertise, but they can guide you through the claims project. So those agents and brokers bring specialized knowledge and expertise, and ideally they work with multiple underwriters so they can take an assessment of your risk profile, your business, your risk profile, what's reasonable for you to have in place from security, from an operational and budget standpoint, given the size and nature of your business. And they can take that information and they can actually effectively bid it out to multiple carriers for your business. You will get better coverage at a better price, working with someone who specializes in cyber insurance, understands it inside out, and works with multiple carriers and underwriters. So on that note, we've covered a lot of ground with these 5 points. It really comes back to next steps and to some respect, how can we help you? So the first thing, do you have cyber insurance? Is it the right policy and coverage? We don't know. We have resources that can help you figure that out. If you don't yet have cyber insurance, or you think you should be reconsidering your current policy and coverages, there's 2 things we can do for you. First, we'll give you for free our rapid security assessment. And we'll email you a code to access it in a way that when you fill out the form, we'll know not to charge you for it. You'll spend 5 minutes or so filling out a survey and a questionnaire for us. We keep this confidential, and we will come back and say, hey, you've got this in place, which is good. You don't have this. You really should have it. Here are other things to consider. And by the way, budgetary numbers, here's what that would look like for you. And then you can go to your existing IT providers or come back to us for help with that. And after making a business decision, risk reward, what do you want to spend? Or maybe you don't need to do anything more than you're doing today. The second thing we can do is we partner with a cyber insurance broker for this service. We can give you a free cyber risk review. We will ask you a few basic questions about your business, what you do, the size, your NAICS code, and we can get you a general risk review that looks at baseline cybersecurity risk for companies like yours, and then a little more detail based on size and some industry factors based on where cyber attacks are happening now. And with those 2 things, you can get an assessment for what you may want to do to prep to apply, and what type of policy or level of coverage that you think might be appropriate. So with that data, we can help you plan your solution and select what you need. And then should you be changing your security footprint as far as products, services, technologies, even policies and procedures, we can help with that execution as well. And so if you're interested in learning more and moving forward, contact us. There's the QR code in the lower right-hand corner, or use bit.ly/CG intro call, and you'll schedule a call with one of our cloud advisors. Additionally, you can contact us, info at Cumulus Global, or give us a phone call. We're happy to talk with you and help you through it. In the follow-up email messages, I can also provide my contact information if you have any specific questions for me. So we've been at this now. We try and keep these, under 15 minutes. I've run a little bit long, so I appreciate you staying on and taking the time with me. If you're watching this on demand, I want to thank you for doing so, and thanks for joining us. For those here live, I'm going to take a second, stop the recording, and then I'm happy to hang out and answer any questions you have. Pop open that Q&A window and ask away.